As I've been telling you for the past couple of weeks, Andrew Bolt returns to this time slot on Monday at 7 o'clock, and we look forward to having Andrew back in the studio. But I also saw roaming around the corridors of Sky News today someone else, a very familiar face, Ross Greenwood, who's got his own show coming up on Sunday at 11 o'clock. And welcome to Sky News, mate.
Can I just say thank you very much, Chris? It's great to be here. And I've got to say, it's just one of these good things after 12 months off to come back. There's enormous stories to be told about the economy, about business. And really, there's no better place to be able to tell those stories.
So if you've had 1 year off and you've been able to get on the golf course,
yes,
you'd be down to single figures now, wouldn't you?
Well, I was for a while, but, eventually you play too much golf and it goes back again the other way. It was one of those points where everybody had their year disrupted. There's no doubt, doesn't matter who you are, your year was disrupted. I was not underprivileged. I was actually much better off than so many other people. Yeah. But, it's still a case where families are dislocated. You leave parents and you look at them as you go, you bid them farewell and you say, I don't know when I'm going to see you again.
Yeah, true.
And I've got to say with elderly parents, it's something where you're very conscious of that. Yeah. And so, I think every family has understood and gone through this. No Australia clearly has not had the sort of, the hurt, I guess, of other nations in terms of the severity of the coronavirus. Every one of us in some ways has had just small moments like that where they've had to stop and just contemplate and reflect, life as it is.
I wanted to get you in because you're starting on Sunday, but also we've just got a very big finance day as well. So it's turned out to be quite timely.
It is.
And in particular, we've seen a thing called inflation. I can't remember even saying the word inflation in the last 2 years.
Isn't this funny? So in the last quarter, as measured by the Bureau of Statistics, inflation rose by 0.9%. Now, annualise that, just multiply it by 3.6%. We haven't seen any of that. Now, a part of that is manufactured by the government and its stimulus. So childcare, which would have been zero. They'd actually taken away the cost of childcare during coronavirus as an assistance to families. It suddenly was charged. So that's inflationary. Yep. But then on top of that, even little things like the price of used cars have gone through the roof because there's no supply of brand new cars because of coronavirus disrupting it. So as a result, the price of used cars has gone through the roof in Australia. So these little things have crept in. The markets are highly fearful of inflation because they can see right now that the economies have got the throttles wide open. You've got interest rates at zero. You've got governments printing billions and trillions of dollars and pouring them into the economies. So as I say, the throttle on not just our economy, but others are wide open right now. And the fear is if that causes inflation, then central banks here and around the world have to raise interest rates to quell inflation. Now, at some point, if they do that, what happens to everybody who's become heavily indebted going into the housing markets?
Yep.
People who have chased bank shares and other companies that are actually providing fabulous yield. Now, this problem might not be a problem for right now. In fact, more than likely, the market's going to continue to be very strong over the course of this year at least. But this just gives us a reminder of the fear that they have. So today, stock market well down. Australian dollar goes higher because if the interest rates are likely to go higher in the future, long-term interest rates, the dollar goes higher.
Yep.
So all of these things have occurred simply because of that one number being printed today.
One particular fraud case came to a conclusion today involving the Chief of Staff, former Chief of Staff at NAB.
Yes.
And this is a 4.5 odd year sentence for a $23 million fraud.
Now, I've got to say, this goes to the very highest echelons of the National Australia Bank. So remember that this woman, Rosemary Rogers, was the Chief of Staff to two chief executives at the bank, Andrew Thorburn and before then Cameron Klein. Now, the important thing about this was that this was happening under their noses. So Rosemary Rogers were there. Those chief executives, it can be expected, did not know what was taking place. But the allegation is that she'd conspired with a co-accused, Helen Rosamond, who ran a travel, leisure-style organisation, events organisation business. And the suggestion was that Rosemary Rogers allowed heavily inflated invoices to be sent to the NAB and paid for, and as a result, she would get a sling. $23 million is the alleged total fraud, and now she's been sentenced to 4 years and 9 months jail. So that is a heavy sentence, there's no doubt, but quite clearly under the circumstances, it's something that goes to the very top of our bank. The bank put out a statement today saying they wouldn't comment because there's still a criminal case involved that's underway. But as I say, the bank itself quite clearly wants to move on from this.
Yes.
It is not a good look for any bank in Australia.
This is the executive level, no wonder. Now, the Financial Review has got to sign a cheque because thanks to their financial gossip columnist, Joe Aston, they've lost a defamation case.
Okay, so Joe Aston is probably one of the best-known financial... Well, they call him a gossip columnist. He's actually been very precise and prescient in some of the stories he's pursued. He's been vigorous. He is a no-holds-bar columnist for the Financial Review. He's probably one of the most read columnists in the Financial Review. But in this case, Justice Lee said he'd overstepped, effectively bullying Elaine Steed, who was a director of Blue Sky. Now, Blue Sky Investments had collapsed. He basically had said that she had been stupid in what she had done. And what happened was that Justice Lee held that he believed that Joe Aston truly believed that she was stupid. And this is what he wrote. However, he also held that he held her up for singular focus, and his campaign of mockery amounted, in his view, that is Justice Lee's view, to be a form of bullying. So as a result, he said that they should sign a cheque for $280,000 to Elaine Steed. But that's not the issue, because they've got to go back for costs, and it's suggested that either side in this argument have put up around $2 million each in the legal costs. So think about this. So you've actually spent $2 million on either side. There's been an award of $280,000 to Elaine Steed. And yet somebody's going to have to pay the costs. And that's what the judge is going to have to decide over the next couple of weeks.
See, for most people who get done over who think they have a pretty good case for defamation, you wouldn't go anywhere near the courts when you think, or you don't know whether you're going to have to pay your own costs or not. It just wouldn't be worth it.
Oh, that's right. So in Elaine Steed's case, she claims that she's really felt as though, in the eyes of the community, she's been diminished. Her employment prospects have been diminished. And so as a result, she said this has affected her confidence, affected her whole life. And so this is the reason why she decided to fight it. The interesting part about this is in regards to reform of defamation laws, whether Joe Aston in the future, if there was reform, would be able to say these things and not necessarily be subject to these types of court actions. But as I say, the interesting part about this is whether it curbs the enthusiasm of someone such as Joe Aston, who, it would be fair to say, Justice Lee held up as being a credible witness and certainly a very fulsome witness, didn't hold anything back in the court case or indeed in his column.
We both know what he's like.
Yep.
He'll never hold back.
He won't hold back. That's just not the way in which Joe operates.
Ross Greenwood, great to have you at Sky News. Look forward to the program at 11 o'clock on Sunday.
Chris, many thanks.